It is my great honor and privilege to introduce our next speaker and to give her a tribute. This is Reverend Dr. Norma Edwards, to recognize her induction as an honoree into the Spiritual Awakenings International Circle of Honor. This is our Hall of Fame for groundbreakers in the field of spiritual awakening. So born in Guyana, South America, Reverend Dr. Norma Edwards is an author, a change agent, a wisdom keeper, a spiritual therapist, and a certified NLP coach. She is a 3 times near-death experiencer. I might be out of date, but I think it's 3 times near-death experiencer. She has studied under 8 spiritual masters, spanning 7 countries. Reverend Norma Edwards is the author of 2 wonderful books, Awakening and Touchstones to Remembering Your Spirit. She is the founder and CEO of Reprogram Your Life. So thank you for your groundbreaking work, Reverend Norma, and congratulations on being inducted into the Spiritual Awakenings International Circle of Honor. And I turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much. God bless you. And I am honored to have been placed in this very prestigious situation. I'm not sure that I am ready to respond to this call, but I must say that I have been following SAI from its beginning. And I have been very touched, very pleased. You know, we are returners. We return from the other side, and we're struggling to manifest our purpose. And just observing your growth and how much you have put into bringing to the world what is taking place really very quietly. Up until SAI and other organizations, we as near-death experiencers, we came back and we were just functioning and enlightening ourselves without even thinking about getting into the limelight. And so it's a privilege and a blessing to have kind of followed you from the beginning to now, and to see the way in which you have expanded and created opportunities for us to share our experiences. I'm very honored that you consider my experience and all that it has taught me, and you've given me this opportunity to share it with others. And I continue to ask for blessings on SAI, because I know there are a lot more of us still in hiding. And so I'm with you, attempting to encourage them to come out into the light, because every experience is needed, and we are ready and waiting in the world for it. Thank you, and God bless you. Continue the good work.
Thank you. Go ahead with your talk.
Good morning to those of you who are listening. My name is Norma. When people ask me what my name is, I say my name is Norma. Do you know why? Because each and every one of us, before we came to earth, there's a guide, a main guide that whispers our name to our potential parents. And embodied in each and every first name is the role that you are about to play on planet Earth, the plan that you came with, and how you will execute that plan. So that every time I say I am Norma, I'm reminding myself of the plan and why I'm here. And every time someone calls me by my first name, it's a call to action. So I wanted to share that with you, first of all, so you would know that whenever somebody says your first name, like Dana or Brian or Yvonne, they're reminding you of why you're here and the purpose that's just wrapped into that first name. I was born in Guyana, South America, educated in England, London, England, and I have traveled quite a bit on the planet. And in doing so, I ran into the 8 spiritual teachers that helped me to be able to vocalize and to expand that with which I came back from my near-death experiences. I want to touch just very lightly because, my goodness, if you go up on the internet, there are several podcasts that will speak in depth about it. My very first near-death experience was in London. I was carrying a baby. The baby died. The fetus died inside of me, and I collapsed one day at work and had to be rushed to the hospital. Excruciating pain. The next thing I know is I'm out of the pain. The pain is gone. And I'm looking down on my body as doctors are working on me, and I'm absolutely confused. I'm in no pain at all. I'm in bliss, if you like to call it that. And I find myself traveling. Before I traveled, I think when the doctor picked up the instruments, you see, I panicked and I thought, if I don't get out of here, they will probably kill me by accident. Because you see, up until then, in 1966, nobody was talking about near-death experiences. And no sooner I said I have to get out of here, I found myself traveling. And I'm traveling through a very dark tunnel. No fear, but I'm traveling through this tunnel and wondering where the tunnel will take me. And I come around a corner and I can see this beautiful, beautiful light. And then there's a moment when I merge with the light. There are no words in any language that can really explain what it feels like when a soul merges with light. I merged with the light and then wondered, what next? Now, at that point in time, you could not have told me that I was dead. Because I was very much alive and experiencing everything around me. And it was very interesting. I was taken first to an opening. When I got there, they were all my family members who were deceased. And now I am really confused. And even 2 dogs that were very, very, played a very beautiful role in my childhood, they were very much there to welcome me as well. And I'm really, really baffled. And many of the souls who were there, I had no memory of them, but I could feel the love and the energy and the joy and the beauty that they brought forth. And then I was told that I needed to go check the record. And I was taken. I found myself traveling. My feet did not touch the ground, but I was moving very swiftly. And I was taken to the Akashic record. Now, when one gets to the Akashic record, you can not only observe what is going on, but you feel the energy, you re-experience what that energy was at whatever it is that you are observing. And I was taken to 7 lifetimes. Now, much later, I understood that the reason why I was taken to those 7 lifetimes is because at that time, in that moment of my life experience, I had just finished or closed what it was that I needed to what it was that I needed to learn from those lifetimes. And so I was on the record so that I can review it, remind myself of what it is, and be able now to accept that the journey, those journeys are over, and that I have walked and I have experienced here on planet Earth what it is I need to learn from them. And so therefore, those files were sealed. One of the things that I found at the record was that we seem to have to be born again or reincarnate in many lifetimes before we finally live out the experience and can learn from it. And all of that I could see as the Akashic record kept scrolling, and I could see and I could experience that there were lifetimes that I had lived that had taught me certain things that I would carry for the rest of eternity. And that was very, very, very interesting and enlightening. And I also got the opportunity, you see, to see that in every lifetime, even though there were trials and tribulations, before that lifetime, I had approached, along with my main guide, these souls that I requested or asked for them to play certain roles in my life. And the roles were not all very easy. What I discovered is that those people who loved me the most, those people who walked with me before and we have a connection and love, were the ones that I asked to play the roles of devil's advocate in my life. And they agreed. And as a result of that, because they knew me, you see, they knew exactly how to get at me and to make that change. So I say that to remind people that whatever it is you're going through, it's so that you can eventually shake. You can learn what it is that you needed to learn from it, and then you can shake it off. So I attended there. I watched or I experienced. I wasn't just observing, I was experiencing the experience all over again. One of those lifetimes, I was Paul, and that one really, really touched me very, very deeply. In one lifetime, it was during the Dark Ages, and there was war between one tribe and another. And the tribe I belonged to, I was a child, and the tribe that I belonged to was losing the war. So they got these boats and they put food and water in the boats, and they put children and women into the boats and pushed them out to sea in the hope that we would survive and that the women, of course, would be able to procreate and rebuild the community. The boat capsized, and I experienced dying. And you can imagine I'm on the other side, and this is really strange because nobody had ever told me before that we lived many lifetimes. So I share that a little bit with you to help you to understand that life truly is eternal. To me, we live many lifetimes. And for every time we consider a new lifetime, we find souls who are willing to do what is necessary, even if it may seem very negative. They are willing to do that because they love us enough to push us through the trials and tribulations so that we can eventually graduate from this amazing school called Earth that we live on. So I had my near-death experience, and then I went to the water, and there I was able to interact with my aunt who spoke on behalf of the group that was gathered there, etc. And then she told me that they were sending me back. I was not a happy camper at all. And I said, why? And they said, well, we have a message we'd like to send to humanity. I'm like, there are lots of people back there. Surely you can find a way. And they said, no, we want to send you back with the message. And the message was, love is divine. God is love. And love, when it hits the density of the earth, turns into light. And light is the sword of creation. But I came back with that message, but I did not quite understand the depth and the meaning of it, you see. So that's where those 8 spiritual teachers came in, so that they can enlighten, help me to understand what that meant and how to go about it. And it has been a very interesting life history. And some of it I have written in the book called Awakening. Among the 8 spiritual teachers, I'm sure you'll find this as interesting as I did, was a 90-year-old gentleman. We called him Brother. Brother could not read or write. And so he had asked Almighty God to transfer the whole Bible into his being. And so he would sleep with the Bible strapped to his chest and ask for guidance in directing him. And he memorized it. It took a couple of years for us to go from Genesis all the way down to the end of the Bible. And what he taught me was that there's nothing wrong with any of the sacred books, including the Bible. We're amateurs when we're trying to read it, and we have not allowed ourselves the spiritual growth that we need to be able to understand the depth of what's written there. And that goes for all sacred books. 8 spiritual teachers later, I uncovered my purpose. So today, I want to be able to share with you some of what I have learned, some of what I have gained, and some of what I am hearing from the other side with regards to how we should proceed through enlightenment while we are here on earth. My title today is 21st Century Demands Change, Guided Information Systems, and the Light. The 21st century is definitely defined by rapid transformation, technology, globalization, and invocation. We're constantly reshaping how people learn, work, and connect. This century is not static. It is an era of movement, adaptation, and discovery. And boy, is that one. That I feel like that's what it has taken me through. The century demands rapid transformation. Hence the reason why in this century, we have uncovered more near-death experiencers. You know, they call them, Yvonne, they call us near-death experiencers. We're death experiencers, you hear me? We have had more near-death experiencers in this century than any other century, because the century is ready to bring about change, not only on planet Earth, but within every single human being that walks the earth. And near-debtors are the forerunners to sharing that which we have learned and to bringing that light. You see, it's not just about sharing, but it's also about exposing the light that we have brought back with us, because that light brings an enlightenment that allows people to shift, to change, to grow, and to move with the universe in terms of change. As I say that, I am moved to share with you the phenomenal change. You know, everyone wants to hear the story of our near-death experience. What absolutely continues to fascinate me is the journey, you see, that has taken place since then. I was 26 years of age, and I lived in London at the time. And of course, I grew up in a family that was strictly religious. So to return, as soon as I opened my eyes, one of the things that hit me was there was two nurses. They were sitting at a table, and I guess their job was to observe me because they had just shocked me back from the other side. And one of the nurses was off on that the Sunday, and she went to church. And the other nurse worked, you see, and they were friends. And so they're sitting there, and their hands are moving with bandage or whatever it is they were working with. And the one is telling, relating what the pastors had preached about that Sunday. And it had to do with hell. And there I am lying in my bed, and I've got tubes, you see, I can't talk. And I'm like, where in the world did I get that from? I just come back from the other side. There is no hell. Where in the world did I get that from? And she's narrating what the pastor had to say in his sermon, you see. And I'm getting very upset because I'd like to say, well, there's no hell, but I can't say anything. Then two young men came along. I suppose they were young doctors, and they stopped to come in conversation with these two young ladies, and I'm kind of like looking at them, and I can see what medical conditions they had. See, and I'm just, this is kind of like something that has never happened to me. And I think it was the very first indication that I had come back with sight. I had returned with sight. But the interesting thing about it is the one nurse is telling the other about, you know, the sermon and hell, and I want to scream at them. There is no hell. And of course, having been to the Akashic record will show that we determine with our guides the lessons we want to learn, and then we seek these people out, these souls out, and ask them to play the role. So by the time you return to the Akashic record, it's not about good, bad, or indifferent. It is really about, did you learn the lesson, and can you teach it? And so my journey began. The day I left the hospital, as a matter of fact, my first night when they took me to the ward, you know, in those days, everybody was in a ward. And there was this woman who was crying out. She was crying out to God that, you know, please, you know, she don't want to die, and I needed sleep. So I pushed myself up and I says, ma'am, let me tell you something. Believe me, you're not going to die. You got at least another 20 years to live. And after I've said it, I thought, where did that come from? But she did get quiet, and we were able to sleep. So I came back with these abilities that I did not have before the near-death experience. And so now I'm curious about where did it come from? Why me? Because I never met anyone with this ability As a matter of fact, the day we were leaving the hospital, you know how you cross? You're going to cross the road, but you cross halfway and you're on that little island. And there was a woman in front of me. And to this day, I will never know whether she deliberately stepped into the traffic or it was an accident. But there she was, stepped into the traffic and she got hit by a car. And as she got hit by a car, I could see her spirit rise out of her body. And instinctively, I began to guide her through the tunnel and into the light. And of course, when I was finished, I'm looking around and everybody's looking at me very, very strangely. But I share this because for many of us, what is downloaded inside of us opens up the ability to see, to hear, to travel, and to teach. So my life now became very, very different. I never talked about it for 15 years because I was afraid that they would put me in a mental hospital because I never heard of anyone having such an experience. So I kept it quiet until my mother was dying. When my mother was dying for the very first time, I spoke to her about what she can expect when she got to the other side. And so the journey began of learning, experiencing, and ran into this 90-year-old man. Never told him I had a near-death experience. I didn't have language for it. Ran into this man who was deeply, deeply spiritual and began my instruction, taking instructions. The 21st century, you see, is bringing to us an understanding that yes, there is a spiritual being, if you would like to call it, that rules the universe. But my very last near-death experience in October of last year, I was sent back and I was told that I am back to deal with the church. And I said, do you remember what they did to Jesus Christ? Do you remember what they did to Paul? And Lord God Almighty, you remember what they did to Peter? And you're asking me to do what? And then they shoved me back into my body and sent me back with the message. So here we are in the 21st century, and the plan from above is rapid transformation. And in order for us to be able to withstand that rapid transformation, we have got to not just give attention, but pay attention to our ability to strive, to rise, to move from just religion, whatever it is, and into deep spiritual growth. And in order to assist us in this transformation, believe it or not, there are guided information patterns that come to us at dawn. You know, here on Earth, we understand that you build these rockets and you send them out into space, and you send people to kind of observe and work with the energy. Well, in the same way, there is rapid transformation taking place on Earth because of the fact that at every sunrise, woven into the light that comes to us, is guided information that will help us to expand our consciousness. But in order for us to be able to access it, we have got to do some work. And part of that work is awakening, expanding consciousness, and beginning to seek and live out the plan and the purpose that we came here to fulfill. So 21st century is definitely defined by rapid transformation. They're sending us the energy that we need so that we can grow. And they're also sending back so many near-death experiencers so we can tell the tale, we can tell the story, and that we can teach others how to expand consciousness. May I have the next slide, please? It's a century that demands change of us. What does that demand mean? We need to upgrade our technology so that we can evolve faster than before. We need to seek careers like A1 that is beginning to help us to expand our consciousness. And our communication methods have got to be constantly changing, because before we kind of focused on education methods that mattered here. But now, with so many returners on the planet, we have got to stop and give attention to our internal and spiritual growth so that we can maintain and sustain life here on planet Earth, which is only really a school. Our adaptability to higher consciousness and the development of human skills will help us in our expansion and living our life's purpose. Change in the 21st century is not optional. It is normal. It's a normal condition of life. And if we keep lagging our feet, we will find that we will be hauled back to the other side and have the guides and guards give you a warning, send you back so that you can pay more attention to your spiritual life than you are to your physical being. And I hope that makes sense. Next slide, please. Guided information systems. Where do they come from? You know, this topic was given to me from the other side, Yvonne, when you called and asked me to speak. And it was about 3 a.m. in the morning, and I was asked to get up, sit at the dining room table, light a candle, pull 2 chairs out. And I did. And I was asked to get a notebook and a pen, and I was given the title. And I was given some information at that time. There is light coming onto the planet, and within that light is information systems. But until we work on raising our consciousness levels, that information is just hanging in the air, waiting for us to expand our consciousness and be able to work with it. We now live in an information-rich world. Data is all around us, but the level of our consciousness determines whether we can access and use that data. And what is required is an expansion of spiritual consciousness so that we have to raise our frequency. I do a lot of working with people to use music to raise the frequency within. Because as we raise the frequency within, we can begin to work with that which is being sent to us from the other side. I hope that makes sense. So every morning at sunrise, try to walk a little bit or open a window so you can breathe in the incoming energy, the incoming light, and the guided information systems that are being offered to Mother Earth and its occupants so that we can expand, we can grow, and we can then be able to fulfill our life's purpose, because each and every one of us came here with a purpose. But until we expand our consciousness, the ability to live that purpose and do what it is we're sent back to do is limited. So we live in an information-rich world. Data is everywhere, but information alone is not enough. Information that is guided by frequencies, higher frequencies, begins to help us to expand spiritually and be able to bring to the world divine light, divine love, and expand consciousness in some very, very, very deep way. It is not enough to just read about it. It's not enough to just discuss it. It is required of us that we have to commit to expansion. We have got to seek out our life purpose. And finding your life purpose is not as easy as some people will make you to believe, because it took several years of work on my part. When I came back, I could remember everything that happened on the other side. I knew that they had told me what my life purpose was. It took several years before I was able to engage it. And that is because even though I came back with many spiritual skills, there was still expansion to be done. And that's what those 8 spiritual teachers did on my behalf. So know that guided information systems is coming in with the sunrise, and it's up to us to expose ourselves to that sunrise and be still, even if it is for half an hour. You know, religions have taught us that when we pray, we have to keep chattering to God. I have learned that first you give thanks for rising in the morning. You give thanks for the love and the devotion and the connection. And then you shut up and be still in the presence of that which created you. And that for me is prayer time. Can I have the next? Real world examples of what it is that we should be doing to expand our consciousness. Education. You see, I grew up with a father that said education is the key that unlocks the door to poverty and leads you to prosperity. And as a child, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years old, I did not understand why he kept repeating it to me. See, I was the eldest one. And I did not understand what he was saying. And he says, well, if you live long enough, you'll understand it. Real world examples is that we have to educate ourselves. I don't care if you have a PhD, there is spiritual education that is needed so that you can expand the frequency that you're carrying. Communication is very important, because think of it, if those of us who came back from near-death experiences just sat still like I did for 15 years and shut our mouths, not too much expansion would take place on Mother Earth, you see. Science. Our scientists are now beginning to understand that they need to look into this thing called consciousness. And if they're looking into it, we have got to pay attention, give attention to what it is that they're unfolding, you see. And as light bearers, it's our responsibility to help those who have not had near-death experiences to expand their consciousness enough so that they can carry light and society. You see, this work of bringing light and awareness to the world is not just in the hands of us returners. Our job is to guide and direct, teach, and enlighten others so they can join with us to begin to bring communication into society that has levels of consciousness that will allow us to be able to graduate off of planet Earth. And I'm here to tell you, I've been as far as the 16th dimension. Lord God Almighty, you talk about light, you talk about love, you talk about inspiration. And that's where we're heading. So society, communities have to rely on the information that we're bringing back. They have to rely on the information that is emerging from science. And they've got to be able to solve modern problems with guidance and consciousness that is very, very much more expanded than it is right now. And the SAI and other organizations are doing a tremendous amount of work on the planet so that we can begin to explode with consciousness and divine direction. May I have the next slide, please? Now, while we are in this space of expansion and learning, we have got to also be very, very aware of the challenges that come to us in the 21st century. It's wonderful to read, you know. It's wonderful to watch movies or podcasts. You're taking in information, but have you made a commitment to change so that that information, it can be settled inside of your consciousness and move you to many levels? Like I said, I've traveled to the 16th dimension. We've just about entered into the 4th, and we think we have grown. Yvonne, we think we have grown tremendously. There are many, many, many more dimensions out there. And so we've got to acknowledge the challenges that we have. You can read as many books as you like. You can follow everything that the science has to tell you. Until you surrender your consciousness to the expansion of awareness and spirituality, that which you are seeking is going to be just information that you bring into the interior, and it's put in a file waiting for you to surrender. And I know some people will come at me for that question. A 90-year-old man taught me. As a matter of fact, he insisted that I should be rebaptized. Took me to the ocean. It took me down the first time, brought me up. Took me down the second time, and he brought me up the second time. He says, I want you to stop. Clear your mind of any thoughts you may have. Because when I take you down the third time, and you come up, whatever it is that is in your consciousness, I want you to say it aloud. It took me down the third time, and when I came back up, I said, a life to live have I, a God to glorify, a never dying soul to save, and fitted for the sky. Now, that came out of my Christian religion and my Christian belief. Every religion has got words that are as effective as those words were for me in the Christian religion. That's when I began to seek and to read every other spiritual book I could put my hand on. The Upanishads, every book. Because there's something in every one of them that will help us to grow, to expand, and to be the beings that we need to be while we are here on earth. So while we're on this journey, we have to be very, very aware of information overload. And this is why I talk about surrendering. When I talk about surrendering, I'm talking about surrendering to love. I'm talking about surrendering to light. Light enlightens. It brings information. Not only does it bring the information, but it allows us to be able to absorb it according to the way it flows. We've got to be careful of misinformation. How do we become more conscious of misinformation? Is when we surrender to truth. What is the truth? When we surrender to truth, we are ensuring that we will not be misinformed. If we're just reading for the sake of entertainment, we're pulling a whole lot of stuff in, but 90% of the time we're not really learning how to manage it and how to use it. We need to understand that not everyone has equal access to technology and knowledge. But everyone can spend 10 minutes or 12 minutes in silence so that instructions can come from above and expand our consciousness. We need to be aware that rapid change can create uncertainty and pressure. And again, if you have surrendered to truth, that's not likely to happen for you. So if you're just reading, and if you're just discussing, but you have not yet decided how, where, when, and why you are going to get serious about your journey, then you're kind of like wandering out there in the wilderness. Too rapid change can create uncertainty and pressure. And again, if you are not grounded, if you're not focused somewhere spiritually, you can run into this problem. Rapid change creates uncertainty and pressure. And what it is that we're seeking, I'm a pastor. And I remember when I used to preach that your destination is to go to heaven. And that's all there is to it. I'm here to tell you there's a lot more to it. And as we increase in light, divine light, and in wisdom on the planet, we can find ourselves in one of those many, many, many dimensions out there. Like I said, I've been to the 16th, and there are at least 16 more to go. Can I have the next slide, please? Now, this is a statement they sent me back to Earth with after my very first near-death experience. Light is the steward of creation. You see, love turns into light. And when we begin to do the work that expands our consciousness, we are bringing in higher frequencies of light into our body. And when we do that, we can become healers. We can become spiritual teachers. We can become part of the guidance here on earth to guide others into higher consciousness. Because light reveals truth. Light exposes what is hidden and brings clarity to complexity. If I had a dollar for every person that calls me seeking, they want to understand. I want to understand I want to have clarity to this complexity that is spirituality. It's only complex when you're resisting it. It's only complex when you have this idea that you have to understand it before you can surrender to it. When it's the other way around, you got to surrender. Light is love. Love is divine. When you surrender to divinity and to light and to love, it reveals truth, and you begin to walk in that journey of truth, and hidden meanings begin to expose themselves to us. Clarity becomes that which overcomes complexity. Next, please. As humans, we have responsibility. The future depends not only on technology, but on how people choose to use it. How people choose to it has a lot to use it, has a lot to do with the level of consciousness they're carrying, and whether that level of consciousness is steeped in spirituality, love, light, and some kind of devotion to things other than earthly things. How people choose to use technology will be determined by their level of spirituality. The 21st century calls for responsible leadership, ethical decisions, decision-making, and thoughtful invocation. We have to learn how to use information wisely when we get on this path. You know, sometimes I have to teach my students, when they first begin to expand and they begin to learn things about light and love and spirituality, they want to go out there and preach it to every single human being they run into. And I have to remind them that we do have the right to stay in ignorance if we want to. Because all that means is that we'll keep coming back to earth again and again and again until we get it, you see. So we have to be very careful about using information wisely. Not every soul on earth right now made the decision to explore spirituality at the 16th dimensional level. And so we have to be very, very, very careful that those people who come to us, yes, they need information. I'm carrying information that I have not yet even begun to share on planet Earth as yet. We have to guide change with values. We have to stop every now and again and examine our value system, because if that value system is not going up, we are holding ourselves back from being exposed to the light of understanding. We need to spread light through knowledge and action. And Yvonne, God bless you. You, along with others, particularly in the scientific world, other agencies like IONS, you are here to remind us that we are not just physical bodies walking the earth, but rather bodies that carry souls that need to be expanded. You know, I want to remind each and every person listening, it is not what you are that heals you. It's not what you are that raises your consciousness. It's what you know. What have you brought into your consciousness? How much commitment have you given to living that which you're reading in books or you're discussing on the internet? How connected are you? to that which is in the spirit world. So we have, as human beings, the responsibility not only to expand technology and how to use it, but also to begin to expand our awareness and our consciousness. And my God, from 1966 to now, when I first came back, I had nowhere to go to explain to me what happened. So in the year 2026, there is no excuse to say, I do not know where to turn, because there are books out there, there are agencies out there, and we have got to begin by exploring and reading. But then the next step is our commitment to allowing light, love, divine light, divine love, to begin to change us from the outside in. Next. The next one, please. Was that the last? So, what I'm asking today, if you are listening to me, you're in earshot. Seek the light. Love is divine. God is love. And love, when it hits the density of the earth, turns into light. And light is the stored of recreation. So if you're looking or you're feeling that you want to expand and you want to grow, you have got to surrender your consciousness, the higher fields of energy and light. Seek the light. Use information wisely. Remember, you cannot take a 2-year-old and place them in a classroom in a college environment. You've got to allow the 2-year-old to grow, you see, expand, begin at the bottom and move all the way up to the top. So when we're seeking light, we're taking it at one level at a time. But you need to use information wisely. You know, sometimes as soon as we start getting this spiritual information, we want to tell it to the whole world. And we're not stopping sometimes to know that some people just need their hands to be held and tell them that they're loved and they need to expand their consciousness rather than giving them the whole story. Use information wisely. Guide change with values. I cannot express this. My goodness. Yes, we need change, but they have to be backed by spiritual values. It's not about what we know, it's what we live. Spread light through knowledge and action. Are you spreading your light with love? Are you guiding those who need to be guided? Are you listening rather than trying to teach without listening? And are you a walking, living example of a field of light? I think that is all I have to say to you today. Let the light of wisdom, allow it to penetrate within you. Seek that which you need. Surrender to wisdom, to light, to grace, and to glory. And that which you need, like that 80-year-old, that 90-year-old man and his wife who found themselves to me. You know, I've had 8 spiritual teachers, and primarily they found me, more or less. I had questions, and their light found me. So I want to conclude with this statement. 21st century is about more than technology. It is about embracing change within, using guiding information systems wisely, and bringing light into the future through knowledge, information, and human purpose. God bless you. God guide you. God direct you. And yet yes, there is a God, because some source or some system has got to be in charge of this vast universe in which we live. Every holy book has got a reason and a purpose here on earth. None is better than the other. What it is we need is learning how to live, how to love, how to receive, and how to give. Thank you, SAI, for the honor that you gave me. I am humbled, and I thank you for taking time out today to listen to what it is that I have to say. You can find me on the internet, reprogramyourlife.org. My autobiography is in the book Awakening, that you can find at you can find it on the internet. And I do carry classes called Reprogram Your Life, so that look me up on the internet, and we can continue this dialogue on this. And to you, Yvonne, bless you and the work that you do here on the planet to guide us, to teach us, to show us, and to open up our consciousness. Peace.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Norma. That was absolutely a phenomenally beautiful, inspiring, filled with spirit presentation. Thank you so very much. Any of you who have some questions for Reverend Norma, please put them into the chat, and I'd be happy to ask them on your behalf. Now, I have so many questions myself. I agree with what you're saying about this being the time of rapid transformation and awakening, and how blessed that you were at the Akashic Records. Can you describe a little bit more what your experience was to be at the Akashic Records?
The first thing that hit me was the fact that we live more than one lifetime. And the second thing that was amazing to me is that whatever experience we have here on earth, good, bad, or indifferent, we requested it, you see, because it was necessary for the growth of the soul. And so some of these people that we think are our enemies, what I saw at the Akashic record, I saw myself very humbly come before these souls that I had walked with before and said, I have had 3 lifetimes on earth, or 5 lifetimes on earth, and I've been trying to learn this particular whatever it is that I needed to learn, and I did not seem to be able to do it. But since you know me very well, and there's a lot of love in your heart, when I go down for the next life, I'm going to ask you to be devil's advocate in my life, because you know me well. And then when we return back to the other side, you go to the record, you see the jubilation, because you see that person who had to push you, they are now very, very happy that they were able to do that. And you are very thankful for the help that you got, even though you were in the body, you didn't particularly like it, you see. So that's one of the things that I discovered at the Akashic record. What I also discovered at the Akashic record is we write the plan with advice from our guides and guards, exactly what it is, what we need to learn, and what it will take to allow us to learn it in the life. Because sometimes it takes 3, 4, 5 lifetimes before we really learn and absorb that which we must learn. So those were kind of a couple of the things. I saw 7 lifetimes, and one of those lifetimes I was Paul. I saw the fact that every lifetime we have come with goals. We set goals and responsibilities, and we don't often fulfill all of them. So it means that we have to repeat. And then when we get back to the other side, we do a review, and we're allowed to journey in the light and the love and be happy until they touch you on the shoulder again and say, no, it's time for another lifetime. I saw that with work.
Awesome. Thank you. We have another fascinating question, which is from Nicole. She'd like to know, what does the 16th dimension feel like? Can you describe that for us?
Energy, phenomenal energy, and it's golden. It's the light is it's more of a golden light. Many of the other dimensions, it's white light, crystal clear light, white light, but there it's golden light, and it's oh my goodness, just love, love, love. When you enter, you feel this tremendous amount of love. So you can understand when it brought me back, I was like, I did say this. Who's the idiot who brought me back? And they have to apologize, of course.
Alrighty, we have another question here. As it seems like a lot of us are awakening at this period of time, is it also that we chose to be here in order that we could help others to awaken?
Oh yes. Oh yes. In my own case, when I came back, I remember, and I still remember, I'm 83 now. I still remember everything that I experienced, but there's one thing that I had a hard time remembering, you see, and that was, what was my purpose? And of course, I got back, and I couldn't remember my purpose. See, keep trying and try. And it seemed like I had to experience certain things, given amount of experiences, before I could get there. And then I remembered the day I was driving in Washington, D.C., and the voice in my head said, find somewhere to park. We need to talk to you. And I got off the beltway and I parked. And when I parked, turned off the engine, one word: prison. Prison? What does that mean? Well, you've been asking for your purpose. So I drove to my pastor at the time I was in training to become a pastor. And she listened. It was a female. She listened and she says, well, could it possibly be that you're not going to become an inmate she said, I don't feel you become an inmate, and there might be some work you have to do there. I said, but I'm afraid of guns, but I'm afraid of handcuffs. I can't do this. But give attention in your life to the places where they really give you answers. So I woke up the next morning and my air conditioning in my car is not working. It's summer. So I get in the car and I can't wind the windows up or down. So the windows are down. And I get to the red light. When I get to the red light, the right lane, this man drove up and he was driving a red sports car. I'll never forget it. And the windows were down. And there was piece of Bob Marley music playing. And just as the lights began to change, this line in Bob Marley's song, the biggest man you ever did see was once a baby. I walked into that prison eventually when the time was right with that statement in my mind, not looking at men and women who have done wrong in the world. I'm looking at men and women who came in as babies. Something happened, and it is my job to come and help them to get over it. And I spent 27 years, I will always say it, I never felt a single day that I went to work. Spent 27 years working with men and women in prison and saw transformation like you would not believe. God is love, is light. And love has an amazing way of bringing transformation. But if you have got to embrace it, you see. And this beautiful thing we call love, and this, I mean, I just wanted to know what my purpose was. And Almighty God was good enough to send me my twin flame. So between us, we were able to fulfill life. That is good. All of the time.
Wow, Norma. Can you tell us a little bit more about your prison work? What actually did you do in your prison work all these years as propelled, as called by Spirit?
I was asked to take spirituality and align it with clinical practice. And it was an experiment at the time. And how I got there, quite frankly, you know, I had this friend, and she worked for a university. And she called me one Saturday morning and she says, you know, we got a conference here and my keynote speaker has just called me to say his mother died and he's on his way to the Carolinas, and we start at 2:00. Can you come and speak? And at that time I was like, no, not really. But I'll help you find somebody. So I go over there to help her find somebody. And we couldn't. Every person we called already had, you know, something to do. And so she said to me, she said, well, at least you could talk about your growth since you came back, etc. And I did. When I got off the stage, he was considered the czar in substance abuse in Washington, D.C. He was a psychologist. He came up to me and he said, Wednesday, 12 noon, DC jail, be there. And he didn't say why. And I showed up at 11, shaking like a leaf. I'm afraid of guns. I'm afraid of, and I was afraid I'm not going there. They might not let me come back out, you see. And he was there. He was there to greet me and got me in, what have you. And he had a group of 35 men that they were experimenting with on placing spirituality right alongside of clinical practice. And he walked me in and they were in a circle because he was the one who conducted that circle. He entered the circle and said, gentlemen, brought you your new teacher. And I expect that you will give her the same respect that you gave me. I was in shock. And then he stepped out of the, and he said, I'd like to invite you to bring that spiritual stuff you're talking about. And let's see if we can align it with clinical practice and see what results we get. 27 years. When I retired and came to South Carolina, I left behind me 8 large companies put together by ex-offenders, because what I taught them was you can't do this stuff on your own, you see. We had 8 pastors. To this day, I'm still in touch with many of them. So what we did was take clinical spiritual practices and drop it into clinical practices and then observe the result. Many of those guys came back. They had to be, you know, exonerated, etc., what have you. But they went off to college, etc., and came back and worked beside me, doing the same work. Like the guys would come to me and they would want, well, let me tell you about, and I said, no, go talk to your clinician. And when you've talked to your clinician, then we come back and we'll talk spirituality. So we merged the two and allowed lots, hundreds of men. You can imagine, I carried classes of 35 over 27 years.
Wow. Phenomenal work you've done, Reverend Norma, just phenomenal. This will be our last question. This is from Bethany. She says, many people talk about graduating from the human experience and moving on to other spiritual realms or experiences. She says her question is, once you have developed to that high level, why would you want to leave? Wouldn't you want to come back to Earth to be of service to others?
Well, you come back on earth to be of service to others. That's part of your training. There are many, many dimensions out there, and souls in those dimensions need help too. See what I'm saying? They do need help as well. So earth is a school. That's why we say earth is a school, because it's training. You get training, and you feel and you experience every single feeling that you have to experience, you see. And then you retired from earth now, and you're become a guide. You become a soul that's working on other dimensions, because believe it or not, we do not die. Soul does not die. It moves on. And I guess occasionally, what it is that you know how to do very well may be needed, and they may send you back to earth. Just upgrade something, you see. But there are many, 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 many planets, many, many places on earth where our souls can provide services. And that's how it works.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Reverend Norma, for an absolutely phenomenal presentation. There were all kinds of comments in the chat, how profoundly grateful. You see all the hearts floating up in the screen. Thank you, and congratulations once again for your induction into our Spiritual Awakenings International Circle of Honor. Thank you.